Hello everyone, it's Go, and before we get started, I just wanted to let you know that if my voice sounds weird, it's because I'm still getting over the flu. And so without further ado, here is my video on Yda Hillis Addis. Yda Hillis Addis was born in 1857 in Leavenworth, Kansas. Shortly after she was born, her family moved to Chihuahua, Mexico. Yda's father, Alfred Addis, was a traveling photographer, and she often helped him in his work. The family traveled the western frontier, finding their way through the Mexican wilderness and regularly visiting native villages, mining camps, and other locations in both California and Mexico. It is during this time, wandering through Mexico, that Yda learned the language, culture, and history of the Mexican people. When Yda turned 15, her family settled in Los Angeles. While they lived there, Yda was part of the first graduating class of Los Angeles High School. In 1880, Yda began her teaching career and started teaching second graders. It was during this time that she also started submitting her stories to the Argonaut. The Argonaut was a bi-monthly journal founded in San Francisco. Yda also began submitting her stories to more journals, including The Californian, The Overland Monthly, Harper's Monthly, San Francisco Chronicle, Examiner, Los Angeles Herald, St. Louis Dispatch, Chicago Times, Philadelphia Press, McClure Syndicate, along with Mexican newspapers and periodicals. Many of her short stories were Mexican oral stories that she had translated into English, and she was the first American writer to translate these stories into English. Yda also wrote many original stories. She wrote about ghosts, tragic love triangles, and visitations from the unseen. Yda's heroines were bold, self-reliant, free spirits that engaged in impassioned relationships. The stories of these tenacious women enchanted readers, and more than 100 of her stories were published. In her story, Señorita Santos, Yda compares American men as being tallow-faced and reared on vinegar to Mexican men as being suave and treacherous. The first man Yda was engaged to was a former California governor. John G. Downey was in his late 60s when he was introduced to Yda. He fell for her and asked her hand in marriage in 1887. Downey's family objected to the marriage and stole him away to Ireland. In response, Yda sued for $500,000 for breach of promise. However, the negative attention that the lawsuit brought caused Yda to leave San Francisco, and she moved to Mexico. She began writing about Mexican politics and culture for the bilingual newspaper called Two Republics. While living in Mexico, Yda had encountered another scandal. The editor of the Two Republics, Theodore Chesterfield, had become enamored with Yda's wit and charm, so much so that his wife, Ursula, sued for divorce and alienation of affection and named Yda as the co-defendant in 1888. Strangely enough, in his testimony, Chesterfield admitted to cheating on his wife, but not with Yda. With this newfound negative publicity, Yda left Mexico and moved back to California in 1890. She began work on her only book called A Memorial and Biographical History of the Counties of Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, and Ventura, California. She collected information about prominent citizens in the area, and during one of her interviews, she met Charles A. Stork. Stork was a former state legislator and the founder and publisher of the Santa Barbara News Press. He was a divorced man with 4 children and 10 years older than Yda. They married on September 10th of 1890. Yda gave up writing to help raise Stork's 15-year-old son, Thomas. In 1891, Yda's book was published, and when the $400 paycheck came in for Yda's book, Stork cashed it and refused to give her any of it. In August of 1891, Yda boarded a train for Los Angeles. A stranger had given her the money for the ticket. She was in poor health and looked terrible. She stayed with the former mayor, Antonio Franco Cornell, and his wife, Mariana. While staying with them, Yda spoke with a Times reporter and alleged that merely 3 weeks after she married Stork, he began abusing her. She claimed he shook her violently and verbally abused her. She also claimed that his son was disrespectful. Stork responded to the accusations by writing to the Times, claiming that Yda was suicidal and that she had attempted to kill herself on 2 occasions, but was saved by a physician. He also claimed that she was hostile towards his son and often threatened to kill him. The couple divorced, and a Los Angeles judge ordered Stork to pay Yda $50 a month and $50 to her attorney. Stork was politically connected and was able to appeal the judgment and move the proceedings to Santa Barbara. He claimed that Yda was insane, but at the end of the second trial in January of 1892, the judge concluded that Yda was not insane, nor was Stork cruel. Not one to let well enough alone, Stork filed more appeals. The divorce was finally settled in 1895. Stork was ordered to pay Yda $200 in attorney fees and $250 a month for alimony. Stork still filed appeals for 2 more years. In 1897, the Supreme Court ordered Stork to pay. Yda was living in San Francisco during the ongoing divorce proceedings and had begun again writing for the Argonaut. Her anger at the situation poured out into her writing. For example, in her story, The Human Tigress, a mysterious woman kills men by disemboweling them. Stork became the district attorney of Santa Barbara County in 1891. After this, his newspaper and other prominent local people started receiving letters. The letters would become known as the Poison Pen Letters. The Poison Pen Letters accused 2 physicians of engaging in an immoral and scandalous act. One of the physicians was Dr. Winchester. Dr. Winchester testified in Yda's divorce hearings in support of Stork's claims that Yda was insane. The handwriting in the anonymous letters matched Yda's, and she was again living in Santa Barbara at the time, so she was charged with criminal libel. Yda denied being the author of the Poison Pen Letters. While on the stand, she said that she was being framed by Teddy Grant Jackson, whom she believed to be Stork's cohort. Despite her cries of innocence, she was convicted in June of 1899. Whilst awaiting sentencing, Yda broke into Teddy Grant Jackson's home. Jackson claimed that Yda tried to chloroform him while he was sleeping. He then grabbed for his gun and Yda struggled with him. During the struggle, the gun went off, but no one was hit. Yda later maintained that she was only at Jackson's home to force him to confess that he had framed her. While she was facing an attempted murder charge, she was sentenced to a year in prison and a $5,000 fine for the Poison Pen Letters. At the arraignment in Santa Barbara, Yda pleaded not guilty. The Times reported that she looked like a mentally beaten woman dressed in a coarse gray bathrobe, loosely tied at the waist. At the time, she was serving out her sentence from the Poison Pen Letters. The grand jury investigation ended in December of 1899 with no indictment. The district attorney, her ex-husband, Stork, was forced to dismiss all charges against Yda. 5 months after the findings, Yda was free and had won an appeal for a new trial pertaining to the Poison Pen Letters. However, Yda Hillis Addis never got a new trial. After she was freed, she disappeared. She left the area, and it is unknown as to where she ended up. Thank you for watching. If you found this video interesting, I have more for you on my channel, so go ahead and subscribe. Oh, and don't forget to leave a like on this video. Also, if you want to be updated on my newest uploads, hit the bell. I have social media links in the description if you'd like to follow me. And as always, stay safe, take care of each other, and sleep tight.